Thank you very much. And welcome to Cats and Dogs here on Press TV with me, Len Potopic. And we begin by considering an odd new language, which I like to call Bidonian. Yes, since the start of his presidency, Joe Biden has been a true innovator. And at the top of his innovation portfolio is a totally new way of talking. Indeed, one so avant-garde, nobody else even understands what he's talking about. No, really. Here's a sample.
It's just, but you gotta, I mean, we gotta reassure, look, it makes no sense. And in addition to that, we have to make sure that we are in a position that we are.
It makes no sense.
We choose unity over division. We choose science over fiction. We choose truth over facts.
That's like just flat out acknowledging. We've been doing everything we can do to keep Biden from being the nominee, and guess what? We tried it in Iraq. It's not working, so now we're going to try, in Iran. Excuse me. We tried in Ukraine.
That's not the only innovation dreamed up by Sleepy Joe. In another world first, the US president has managed to shake hands with thin air, confirming that if you stand for president after the normal age of retirement, you should employ someone to check you're not mixing up real people and, let's just call them, imaginary friends. Watch this.
There's not a single thing America can't do when we do it together as the United States of America. God bless you all.
A lot of people voted against Trump, but how did 81 million people vote for Biden? I mean, did they do it on purpose, or were they as confused as he is? And does this explain one mystery? Namely, was he shaking hands with phantom people because he got himself elected by ghosts? How long can the United States remain as a world superpower when the head men were Donald Trump and now Joe Biden? A comedy duo in the classic American tradition. Just 1 month before his historic thin air handshake, Biden tried yet another creative trick. He appeared to blame super high inflation rates in the US, not on himself, but on his two biggest enemies, COVID-19 and Vladimir Putin.
Let's be absolutely clear about why prices are high now. They're high for two reasons. One was COVID. The second big reason for inflation is Vladimir Putin and gas prices. Not a joke.
Well, that explains it then. Not his fault at all. Though some fear these days he's out of touch with America, but in touch with his imaginary friends. So if you want to talk with the president, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters! Now, in the face of his economic crisis, the Biden administration has taken a strategic decision to allow people to indicate their gender as X on US passports, which apparently means non-binary gender identification. So is that what Biden means by Generation X? Given runaway inflation, economic problems, and sky-high rocketing energy bills, the Biden administration might as well also allow people to define themselves as Generation B or Generation Bankrupt. Biden's people will also continue to try to rebuild old Joe's popularity with other, even more creative initiatives. How about an initiative ensuring everybody his age gets a postal vote, including grieving relatives of Darwin? That's the tortoise who recently died aged 105. Now, Biden and Darwin had much in common, like living through World War II, several global pandemics, and the moon landings. But other tortoises also point out there are differences. For example, unlike Biden, the tortoise Darwin never messed up a US withdrawal from Afghanistan, or tried to shake hands with an imaginary tortoise. And he could run faster too. And despite one of the lowest approval ratings in recent history, even lower than Trump's in his first year, Biden seems intent on stumbling towards a second presidential election, probably against Trump in a couple of years. But we won't need to wait that long for the next president of France. French voters have a choice between Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen, who once said, "The policies that I represent are the policies that are represented by Monsieur Trump." And her campaign slogan, "Give the French back their country." Now, what does that sound like? Oh yes, make America great again. And a bit like that famous UK adage, take back control, vote Brexit. So what is the secret of Le Pen's apparent popularity? Let's ask the lady herself right here on Cats and Dogs. Mrs. Marine Le Pen, welcome to the show. And let's start with this. Why don't you like the European Union?
Nobody likes the European Union.
I think Emmanuel Macron does.
Nobody likes him either.
Why not?
Because he's French.
But hold on, you're French too, aren't you?
Not in the same way.
What's the difference?
He opposes Brexit.
So you support Brexit, that's France leaving the European Union. Is that official?
Oh, I mean, no, this is a misunderstanding. I misspoke.
So you don't support Brexit?
No, I meant, I suppose, Netflix. Yes, that's right, Netflix.
Okay, well, what about hijab?
I've never watched that channel, so I cannot say.
No, I mean, you seem to oppose the hijab, the clothing. Isn't that restricting people's freedom to wear what they want to wear?
They restrict my freedom to stop them wearing what I don't want them to wear.
But people voluntarily choose to wear hijab.
I voluntarily choose to stop them, so everything is in balance.
What's your policy towards the European Union and immigration, for example, then?
I fully support the right of French people who support the EU to go away and live there, especially Macron. In his case, I call it a Macrit.
Macrit?
Yes, this sounds like a pasta dish, so maybe he should move to Italy.
And what's your message to the people of France?
France for the people, Le Pen for the people. So France for Le Pen, and long live Netflix, especially the French bits.
Marine Le Pen, thank you. That was Marine Le Pen of France. Incidentally, if Emmanuel Macron, the youngest ever president of France's Fifth Republic, wins again, he'll have his oldest voters to thank. If only votes of those under 60 had been counted in the first round on April the 10th, Macron would have come third. Maybe like Biden, he'll be shaking hands with ghosts. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is offering to buy the Twitter social network for $43 billion. Firstly, how is it possible that someone has trouble paying tax but can afford to buy the whole of Twitter? Secondly, how will Musk make the platform about free speech, as he claims he will? He's buying it off the public with millions of owners and making it private with just one owner. That's himself. So the only person with unlimited free speech will be him. He just better hope that Trump doesn't get his Truth Social network going, which currently has more problems than followers. Back in Britain, the British government revealed controversial plans to send asylum seekers on a one-way trip 6,000 kilometres away to Rwanda, a country London previously slammed for human rights violations. So let's get this straight. Asylum seekers who survived British bombs in Yemen, Iraq, Afghanistan and Libya will be sent to Rwanda? Why? Because if they can survive British foreign policy, they can survive anything. Elsewhere, Canadian coronavirus information got quite saucy. Quebec's Ministry of Health and Social Services accidentally tweeted a link to a pornographic foot fetish video instead of the latest COVID-19 figures. The department deleted the tweet after about 30 minutes and apologized, adding, "We are looking for the causes." Looking for the causes? Here's a hot tip for the Quebec Ministry of Health and Social Services. Don't watch foxy films at work. Oh yes. Now let's meet this week's The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. The good this week is the Archbishop of Canterbury, who condemned Boris Johnson's neo-colonial plan to send refugees to those camps in Rwanda, stating the policy doesn't stand the judgment of God. Perhaps the only people confused enough to think this is a good policy are those who don't realise that loads of people standing around drinking alcohol in Downing Street are having a party. The bad this week is Danish far-right party leader Rasmus Paludan, who burned a holy Quran in a busy Muslim area in Sweden. Paludan's done it before, previously burning the Quran wrapped in bacon. People like him have missed a simple rule of politics. If you want to be taken seriously, don't act like a total idiot. But I guess he's too stupid to understand that. And this week's ugly is the Israeli regime again. Once again, Israeli soldiers attacked Palestinian worshippers in Al-Aqsa Mosque during the holy month of Ramadan. Assaulting peaceful defenseless worshippers perhaps suggests these soldiers might have some sort of anger management issues. Maybe they get jealous when they see happy worshippers getting on with each other. So hey soldiers, somebody needs a hug. That's all for this week. Join me again next time to find out who's in charge of France, who's in charge of Twitter, and who's in charge of Biden's imaginary friends. Right here on Press TV with me, Len Potopic, and Cats and Dogs.